Thank you, everybody, for coming here today. And we are in downtown Cleveland, and we are right now going to begin our panel discussion of the benefits of clinical innovation. We have a distinguished panel of guests here. We have a great select media that's here as well, and of course distinguished guests that are also here, part of Invacare and also others. So this is also being broadcast live on Ustream.tv. So thank you everybody that's out there watching. And I will begin with J.B. Richey. And if you could just take, we're going to have them introduce themselves one at a time, and then we'll go on down.
Yeah, thank you, Dan, and welcome everybody. I want to thank you all for coming. My name is J.B. Richey. I'm one of the founders of Invacare, and I was one of the investors and directors of it since it was purchased in 1979. I'm an engineer, electrical by training. I've been developing products all my life. And I met Mal Nixon in 1974 when I was developing a CAT scanner for a company called Invacare, which at that time owned Invacare. And later on I went and developed an MRI for Technicare, which has been purchased by J&J. So I've sort of been in the medical business since 1970. Mal and I met at Technicare. He was hired to sell the products I developed, and mainly the CAT scanner, and we decided to see if we could buy Invacare with some other investors, which we did. So I joined the company as a director in 1979, and I joined the company as an employee in 1984. I'm head of research and development right now, a job I love. As I said, I'm an engineer and inventor, and this is what I like to do. Thank you.
Thank you, JB. Joel?
Good afternoon. I'm Joel Marx. I'm a Invacare customer, and I use their products as chairman of a medical service company. We're a regional provider in the area, employ about 150 employees, service on any day over 10,000 patients. Like JB, with his MRI experience, I have been a patient with an MRI. It's about as close as I come to inventing it. Our job is to take care of patients, and I'm proud to be here.
Great. Mark?
Hello again, thank you for coming. My name is Mark Sullivan. I'm the Vice President of Rehab for Invacare. I started with Invacare in 1984 as a territory business manager, and came inside into product development in 1990. And currently my group is responsible for product development and marketing of the rehab products, including power wheelchairs, custom manual wheelchairs, and seating position.
I'm Steve Landers. I'm a family doctor and geriatrician at Cleveland Clinic, and my clinical practice is primarily home-based care, physician house calls, and I'm responsible for running our home care operation, which includes a home health agency, a home hospice program, home infusion, and home respiratory therapy services.
Lou. Thank you. I'm Lou Slangen, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Market Development at Invacare. In my prior life, I spent 17 years with a Dutch company. Now you can guess what the accent comes from, too. It was Philips. And I've been with Invacare 23 years, and I have the distinction of being hired by GB at the very end here. So you can still think about what he did 23 years ago, whether it was a good or a bad decision. Thank you.
Mark?
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Auckerman with Medox Home Medical. We're a regional home medical equipment supplier, primarily focusing on respiratory home care. We're based out of Springfield. have 4 locations here in Ohio, one of which is up here in Elyria, within the MSA. My background is respiratory therapy. Been in the business about 25 years, and I run the company along with my business partner for the last 10 years.
Last but not least, Joe.
I'm Joe Lewarski. I'm currently Vice President of Respiratory here at Invacare, where I've been for the last 2 years. I'm also a respiratory therapist. I've been in healthcare since 1984 and started in home care in 1990, where I worked both on the provider side and more recently for the manufacturing side.
And I'm Daniel Lee. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Invacare, and I will be moderating this panel discussion today. So we're going to get right into the questions. We will also field questions from the audience. We can do it throughout. If you raise your hand, we will let you know when you can ask those questions. But we're going to start with JB down at the end, and if each one of you can also address this question, I think it's pretty relevant within the clinical world, but as well as the products. So, JB, how, in your opinion, how will new technology affect clinical care, both in the short term and the long term? And if you could just give some insight into how that will be foreseen in the future.
Sure. I'd be glad to. Just to comment on Lou's introduction, because I hired him. I'm an engineer, he's a marketer. We have to get along. New technology is going to move more. It's going to move more into the home. It's going to move medical technology more into the home. And just to recap some of the things that have already gone that path, oxygen's moved into the home, infusion pumps have moved into the home, ventilators even to some degree have moved into the home, therapeutic surface support, products such as the TSS mattresses and so forth have moved into the home. And so there's a lot that's already gone into the home, but there's a lot more to come. And Steve, Dr. Landers mentioned earlier about home monitoring. I think monitoring is going to move into the home. It hasn't moved into the home as fast as it might have, but that's mainly because there's no one to pay for it right now. Reimbursement doesn't pay for it. Someday they'll get figured out. And that's going to change things drastically. The technology is basically there to do it. Many companies have developed the products already. Philips has. Bell's working on it. There's a lot of companies that are working on it. They have the stuff ready to go. And eventually it will happen. Other things will be medication tracking. That's an example of something that isn't done well in the home. People forget to take their medications, and they wind up being readmitted to the hospital. And they have all kinds of, I call them gimmicks, but there's systems where it almost makes the person take their medicine, even to the point of videoing it and being able to send that into the medical organization that's doing the monitoring. More independence in the home. They need more independence when they're in the home. One example of that's happened was home fill, because now they don't have to depend on providers to bring them oxygen. That gave them independence, so that's an example I think a good one where technology affected home health care. Wheelchair power, all kinds of improvements have come there. There's more to come. Better lifts. Lifts are kind of archaic to handle the patients, as you've seen them, you know what I mean. And there's ways to make better lifts. And I think you're going to see that happen. In Europe, as you know, they use lifts that are mainly overhead. That hasn't really caught on in this country. It might, but there's also just ways to make a better manual lift for the patient where they're not hanging by what looks like an array of slings and ropes. Overall, we're going to have to improve improve the cost effectiveness of products and the value you get from them. That's our job. We have to do that through design, engineering, and research to a certain extent. It really comes down to you've got to make things smaller, lighter, less noisy, draw less power. If you do these things, it improves the technology of the product and the usefulness of it. Other examples of technology that will be developed that are going to improve things are glucose monitoring. I call that the holy grail. The person that comes out with a glucose monitor. It doesn't require any invasive, you don't have to draw blood. That's going to be a major breakthrough. And a lot of people are working on it, getting but not there yet. Other monitoring in the home, non-invasive, will be important. Then you have the technology coming, you probably have heard stories about a brain control for wheelchairs. A lot of people working on it. It's being done right here in Cleveland, Case Western Reserve University. That's going to make that particular area much better than it is and apply to more people than it does now. Exoskeletons, probably heard about these. I think it's a great idea. I'm confident that to do one. When the time is right, but these things you can put on your body. And for people who can't stand and walk, it will make you stand and walk. They have them now, they're kind of klutzy. But they're getting smaller because we're developing technology to make them smaller. Better batteries, better power sources, better motors, better actuators. And there's all kinds of work going on there that's going to make that a reality. You won't have to wear it on the outside of your clothes, it'll be under your clothes. You won't see it. Self-injections. We're working on nano needle arrays so you can give yourself your injection. You don't have to go get an injection from the hospital. Unstick it, stick it on your arm, goes in, let the nano, they call them nano needles, smaller than the stinger on a mosquito. An array can go into your body and deposit the medication. Closed loop monitoring. More of all the products will have closed loop systems attached to them. So that, for instance, in oxygen, it's pretty logical. You have a closed loop system, so when the person has enough oxygen, it automatically will reduce it. I think I mentioned before, but in power wheelchairs, you're always looking for the smaller chair with less batteries, less weight, more portability. And that's going to be done with motors. Invacare introduced the first gearless brushless motor in a wheelchair, which makes it a lot smaller. And we're working along that line right now to use that in more products. But, those are just some of my examples, and I'd be willing to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thanks, JP. I actually, if we can just...
Oh, you want to hold the questions?
Yeah, let's hold the questions. But from a provider's perspective, Joel, how have you embraced technology, and what do you see in the future as far as affecting clinical care or home care from your point of view?
I'm chomping at the bit to get my hands on these inventions that JB comes up with. The biggest barrier to it is